Hello and welcome to the matchup presented by Shell Polymers. I'm Rob King. The Steelers are coming off a 13-6 road victory at the Denver Broncos, improving to 2-0 with both those wins coming on the road. First time the Steelers have done that since 1999. Joined by always, as always rather, by the guys from The Drive. By always, as always, Dale Lolley, Matt Williamson. Thanks, guys, for being here, of course. And Dale, that game looked like it was on the verge of being a blowout in Denver, and then penalties kind of undid the Steelers' mojo a little bit, and they hung on and they won 13-6.
Yeah, and I really think once they went up 10-0, it felt like it was 20-0 or even 30-0. The Steelers' defense really controlled the game pretty much throughout until a couple of late drives that against some situations where you're kind of in a prevent defense to a certain degree. Offensively, they didn't do a whole lot in the second half, but they didn't need to do a whole lot against that particular Denver team.
Is that the way you saw it as well?
100%. I also do think the altitude gets to you after a while, too, late in the games if you're not used to it early in the season. They have a very good record there in September, and that's not an accident.
Okay, so we're going to get you ready with the key matchups, looking at the only matchup of two 2-0 teams in the NFL this weekend, and that is the 2-0 Chargers visiting the 2-0 Steelers. And your key to this game, Matt, offensively for the Steelers is to attack the interior of the Chargers defense.
Very much so. They've had a lot of roster turnover in the last year or so. Harbaugh takes over. And I think there's a couple areas of this team that they're really going to have to address next offseason, starting with their big guys on defense. The true D linemen in their 3-4, I think it's probably the softest part of the team and will need the most work this offseason. And the way Frazier's playing and the Steelers' inside run game, I think they're going to have their way in there.
Steelers averaging 139 yards per game on the ground. And Arthur Smith, addressing the media a short time ago, said, look, this is what we want. The first half of that Denver game, that's what we want. Establish ourselves as kind of bullies. Let's go. Let's impose our physical nature on the opposition.
Yeah, the Steelers leading the NFL right now with 77 rushing attempts through the first 2 weeks, Rob, and that's not by accident. That is by design. Obviously, Justin Fields, adds to that a little bit, but if he weren't running, there's a good chance they'd be running Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren even more than they have. But they're able to rely on Fields' legs a little bit here and stretch the defense just a little bit more because Fields can get out on the edge, whereas Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren are more, the in-between the tackles guys. And I'm with Matt. If they can attack the middle of that defense, they should have some success.
And if the Steelers are able to do that, that's great. Of course, there's always going to come a time in a game in which you have to drop back and throw the ball, which leads me to my key, which is the edge. Protect the edges against these guys. You have Joey Bosa, who's a 4-time Pro Bowler on one side. You have Khalil Mack on the other side. Mack is an 8-time Pro Bowler, a 3-time All-Pro. You have other edge rushers coming off the bench for the Chargers. If there's one place on defense, they're really deep and really talented. It's on the edge. And so you cannot let these guys, to me, disrupt the game and change the game with a sack or a strip sack.
No, you're absolutely right, Rob. And I think if the Steelers can establish that running game, maybe it slows those guys down a little bit and get in. You want to be in third and manageable. You can't be in obvious pass down situations like some of the ones we've seen because of the penalties. You can't be in 3rd and 10 against these guys because you're playing right into the hands of that pass rush.
There's a couple things here, Matt. They are at home. It's a young group, obviously, of tackles for the Steelers. Well, Moore's got some experience. The right side with Fautano, and if we see Broderick Jones, a little less experienced, of course. Will it help them that they're at home and not having to deal with not only edge rushers but crowd noise as well?
Yeah, it's certainly an advantage, and you got the crowd on your side and all those things. But I think you mentioned this is their strongest position group on defense, far and away. And the starters are also really good run defenders. I mean, they're powerful players. I think Mack had 17 sacks last year, so his best days are still rolling along.
And Bosa being healthy is obviously a huge help for Harbaugh and his staff as well. So that leads us now to your key. And look, Arthur Smith offense, we know they want to be able to get the ball to the tight end. That brings Derwin James, 3-time Pro Bowler, a 1-time All-Pro into the mix as well. And that's your key matchup Pat Friermuth against Derwin James.
Yeah, even though James is a free safety by trade, they will bring him down and cover the slot a little bit on some tight ends and things of that nature. But thus far this season, the Chargers in 2 games have allowed 13 completions on 17 pass attempts to tight ends here. So if Friermuth can win that matchup, if that's how the Chargers want to attack the Steelers offensively, and I certainly would. I'd put my best guy on Friermuth because you're going to have to double Pickens on the outside and try to make somebody else beat me. If Friermuth can win that matchup, the Steelers should be in good shape.
Yeah, I see Friermuth probably being the second most important receiver on the team. I think Pickens sets up for a big day. Friermuth as well. James has slowed down a little bit in his career. I mean, he burst on the scene. He's extremely talented. But looking at this defense, much like the Ravens, I mean, that's the defense they're playing now. He might be their Kyle Hamilton.
Right, and who's obviously a great player. And then James, of course, had that season lost injury.
Right.
I think most of his accolades happened prior to that injury season. So Yin's Chat regular season challenges are back. Answer trivia and predictive questions and compete against Steelers Nation for a chance to win a mini helmet autographed by Alex Highsmith. Remember to play every week for a chance to win the season-long grand prize. The key matchups when the Chargers have the ball and the Steelers are on defense is up next when the matchup presented by Shell Polymers continues.
Want to get gear direct from the team? Shop all things black and gold at the official Steelers Pro Shop located at Acrisure Stadium. Get the latest sideline apparel and hats, jerseys of your favorite players, authentic memorabilia, custom gear, and exclusives you can only find here. Don't forget, you aren't game day ready without a terrible towel. The Steelers Pro Shop has everything you need to be part of the legendary Steelers Nation. Come experience the Acrisure Stadium shopping environment or shop online at shop.steelers.com.
Welcome back to the matchup presented by Shell Polymers. The Steelers getting ready to take on the Chargers, the unbeaten Chargers. You know, you think about Harbaugh with a coach, Greg Roman as the offensive coordinator. They want to run the ball. You think about the Baltimore Ravens, but this is the Chargers coming to town with Greg Roman, the former offensive coordinator for Jim Harbaugh's brother John when he was in Baltimore, a team that wants to play a physical style of ball. But the Steelers' defense has been fantastic, special teams. They've got some real edges coming into this game, including the fact that they haven't turned the ball over all year and lead the league in that department.
Yeah, there isn't a team in the league that has benefited more from the combination of the turnover differential and special teams than the Steelers. And it adds up. I mean, they're not putting a lot of touchdowns on the board on offense, but as you mentioned, I think the defense is absolutely one of the best in the league.
When I look at this matchup, you know, I think third down, before we get into the specific matchups, is going to be key for both teams because both teams, it feels like, want to do the same thing. Get yardage on first down, get yardage on second down, get into third and manageable, control the clock, try to win the game playing that. It's like two very similar styles, it seems, going head-to-head.
Yeah, they're really mirror images of each other, Rob, and the Steelers are allowing a 19% conversion rate on third downs. That's number 1 in the league. The Chargers are at 23.1%. That's number 2 in the league. So, you know, both of these offenses are going to be challenged to try to convert those third downs, and the team, I think, that wins that battle, the team that's better on third down offensively, probably wins this game.
Early down success is going to be important too.
Right,
No
for
question.
sure. Setting up those third downs,
Yeah,
yes.
or staying out of third down.
So that means both teams want to run the ball. That leads us to the first key, which is, for me, Dobbins against the inside linebackers. JK Dobbins, look, we know he's been super talented. This guy's had injury problems. It's really been a shame what's happened to his career when he was with Baltimore, putting up ridiculous numbers. Well, this year, I don't want to say he's averaging 10 yards a carry because he's not. He's averaging 9.9 yards per carry, which is ridiculous. And he's healthy, and he's a factor, and he can run, and he's got power. So these inside linebackers for the Steelers, I think stout up front for sure, but to be able to pursue Dobbins, be able to get down the line of scrimmage, cut him off as he tries to get the edge, that to me is going to be a real key in stopping Dobbins and this running attack.
Not only that, Rob, but the defensive line, keeping those linebackers free to run to the football, I think is a big key here as well, because this is a good Chargers offensive line here. So if the Keanu Bentons and Cam Haywards and Larry Ogunjobis can win up front to keep Patrick Queen and Landon Roberts free to get to the ball carrier, I think that goes a long way.
So obviously they want to do the same thing as the Steelers, get into third and manageable. At times they're going to have to throw. We know Herbert, look, he's got a 5,000-yard passing season on his resume in a Pro Bowl, but they haven't been throwing the ball downfield a ton. They're going to have to, at some point, you would think, in this game, drop Herbert back in an obvious passing situation. They believe they've got the bookend tackles in Slater, who was a Pro Bowler as a rookie, missed all of last season, 2 seasons ago, that was last season with an injury. And then you have Joe Alt, who's a 5th overall pick on the right side, or they're already calling Joe Alt delete for what he did to Max Crosby in game 1, which is hold them without a quarterback hit. So that's your key, is these edge guys against the Steelers' great edge guys.
100%. And I'm sure everyone out there understands how good the Steelers are coming off the edge. But this group of tackles is really impressive. And like the Steelers, the Chargers have heavily invested through the draft in talented young guys. I think Slater's already one of the best left tackles in the league, and Alt's on that trajectory. He's a superstar prospect that had 2 really good games, but TJ Watt's a little different animal.
Yeah. Cannot wait to see these matchups on the edges for both teams, really.
Absolutely.
I think it's going to be extremely fascinating. And then again, if Herbert is throwing, maybe he has a little bit of time, he better beware of your key, which is Minkah Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, and the Chargers really haven't thrown the ball down the field much this year. If you look at it, 31 of Herbert's passes have been at the line of scrimmage or within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage. He's 27 of 31 throwing the ball in that respect. But down the field, he's 2 for 5 on throws of 20 or more yards down the field. He's 2 for 8, on throws 10 to 19 yards down the field. If he misses on some of those throws that far down the field, if he's off on those, that's where Minkah Fitzpatrick takes over, and he's due for some kind of turnover. He didn't have any last year. We're 2 games into this. Maybe that happens in game number 3.
So I do think these teams are similar, but I also look at the Steelers' defense as the best of the 4 units by a pretty wide margin. But they've got this quarterback who's a really, really good player. Last time they played the Steelers, he tore them up. But he's also been on the injury report this week.
Yeah, and he ran in that game for
quite a
90
bit.
yards in
I don't think
addition
he's running
to
for
throwing.
90 in this one with that ankle injury.
No. Of course, that was a 41-37 victory a couple years ago with Herbert at the helm. But again, 2 teams trying to play a different style. Now that'll do it for this week's edition of The Matchup, presented by Shell Polymers. A reminder, the Steelers 2-0, the Chargers 2-0. It is the home opener for the Steelers at Acrisure Stadium. Kickoff is scheduled for 1 o'clock. For Dale Lolley, Matt Williamson, I'm Rob King. Thanks for watching this edition of The Matchup, presented by Shell Polymers.